Hey everybody, we're back with Deep Images, and we've been gone for a while. You probably won't know that from the order of these episodes, but we've decided to go ahead and get into our Halloween coverage this year, and we have a topic that Mr. Tim Tolbert, who can't be with us tonight, unfortunately, wanted us to do for 2 years solid, which is human monsters. This is a topic that I'm sure it runs a gamut. Human monsters can be like serial killers, cult leaders, just exceptionally cruel, gaslighting people. Anything that's real human on human violence, where mental and or physical, that makes them, monstrous. Now, some of these monsters might have some redeeming qualities that throw you off, which kind of adds another level. So I'm Henry Covert. Over here, I got Robert Sagetti. I got the incredible Bill Mulligan. I got the awesome AC Nicholas and the co-host Dustin Cotton live in Australia. Before we go on, if you could please like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It would really help us. We are trying desperately to get 1,000 subscribers. I want to go ahead and open up with one that hopefully will set some tenor, but it's one I'm pretty sure we're all into. So it's Michael Powell's 1960 Peeping Tom. This is a movie I've had a relationship with for a long time, and it's a pretty serious one. I got the Criterion Blu-ray a few weeks ago, and it's like, oh my god, seeing an old friend, and it looks better than ever. But this was a movie that I had read about. I'm pretty sure in one of Danny Perry's cult movie books from the early '90s. And one thing I thought at the time was, why have I never heard of this movie? Why are horror people not talking about this movie? Then I found out, because I didn't know who Michael Powell was, and then I found out that this kind of ruined his career. But it didn't really matter, because he was already, world respected for being part of the him and Emmerich Pressburger had the Archers production company. From what his widow, Powell's widow, said, Powell did actually direct all of those movies, but they both co-wrote and they both co-produced. That's just something I found out the other day. So she could be biased. I don't know, but I've seen a few. I like The Red Shoes a lot. That's one of my favorite movies. And this one's very different. I mean, it's beautiful like The Red Shoes. It's got that kind of luster over it that I don't know if it's
I think it's Eastman color.
Eastman color.
I
Okay.
think
And I was
it's
going to say
very
Kodak
bright
color.
red. I could be
Yeah, okay.
wrong.
Right, right. Eastman color. That
I
makes sense.
think. I think.
I think, yeah. But it opens up with some weird lighting. It's almost like an artificial looking set, kind of like something Hitchcock would do around the time. But I think it was really a street corner, but it might have been just a set. But it kind of looks fake, and the lighting is off. And there's a prostitute on the corner, and you see this guy's eye blinking in his big blue eye. So I think already it starts out in kind of a psychotic vibe, and there's some atonal music that kind of synchronizes between his eye and the shots of this bizarre little tableau he's got going on. Anyway, basically, this guy is our main character, Karl Heinz Bohm, who is a German actor. I think this is by far his most famous role, but he did do quite a few German movies, and he did one German movie that I would note. Well, in English it was called Unnatural, but that was not a translation. So Unnatural was made in '52, I think, and Baum played a very prized role in German horror, which was that of Frank Brown. Frank Brown was the star of a trilogy of very dark occult novels that came out in the '20s by Hans Heinz Uvers. So there was like The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Alrana, and I can't believe I forgot the other one. I used to have a copy of The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I sold it recently for $100. But very obscure writer, very influential writer. But Frank Brown in the books was a sorcerer's apprentice, and Tim Brinken was his uncle, and he was a crazy mad scientist. So when he created a homunculi, he created a woman called Elrana, and she was created out of the mandrake root, and the root grows at the gallows where the dead men have ejaculated upon dying, and it has fertilized this area, and so then it is cultivated by this alchemist, and that's how you have Elrona. And there's a '20s version with, I think, Bridget Home, and it's quite
Hmm.
good. It's eerie, but the
It's
one
been made a bunch of times, and yet
four or
it's
five, yeah,
it's very unknown,
it's very unknown. You have to kind of
probably
be
for the subject
warned.
matter.
Yeah, and the thing they do with the one with Karl Heinz Baum is, in my opinion, they tried to make it too palatable. So it's, I don't know if they
Hmm.
wanted to have an English speaking audience. So they got Joseph von Sternberg. Is that the name of the guy? The director who did Greed.
Hmm.
Yes,
Right.
he plays Tim Brinken, so he's suitably menacing. I can't remember the actress who played Elrona. Totally miscast. I mean, she looks like a debutante. You know, it's like no, that's not. That's not, you should have got like a goth looking chick for this kind of role. Somebody that kind of says supernatural, you know, sexuality. This woman isn't sexy or supernatural or scary. But he's pretty good in that, Karl Heinz Baum. So I give him a little credit. So if anybody wants to dig that stuff out, feel free.
Wasn't there a version with Bridget Helm, or am I wrong
Bridget
about
Home
that?
is the one. Yeah, that's the one in the 20s. And uh,
Okay.
yeah, a bootleg. I think there was like two in the 20s, one in the 20s, one in the 30s, and then this 1952. But anyway, so Baum is now mainly among English speaking people for this movie. The whole the whole atmosphere surrounding that movie, what would you call it? Parochial, provincial, basically British snobbery run rampant, you know, controlling everything. And Powell was like, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want to. And basically it came down to Leo Marx, who the interview in this documentary too, who was still alive. He is a certified madman. I mean, he actually directs his own in character as himself as a character to the documentary people. So I can't even describe what he does. He's got a shtick, and I couldn't get it at first, but it's pretty funny. I guess he's no longer with us, but he wrote Peeping Tom, and he had a lot to say about it years later. And you know, it's supposed to be subversive, and getting Powell to direct it and have a decent budget, that is pretty subversive in and of itself. So Powell had no regrets though about the movie later. Some people say it ruined his career. It did in the sense that yes, it kind of ended, but he did do like Age of Consent with Helen Mirren and a couple other kind of movies that also were kind of spicy for their time, but they just weren't very seen by anybody, very much. Peeping Tom, the other thing and reason I think it's uh, was kept out of the discourse for a long time is because it came out the same year as Psycho. And the thing about it is, you know, I'm known for controversial opinions, so I'm going to slam this one at everybody. Peeping Tom is a vastly better film than Psycho. However, I love Psycho. I love Psycho. But Peeping Tom's character, I mean, Hitchcock did a brilliant thing by casting a young, handsome guy instead of someone who looked like Ed Gein. But Powell took it much further. Powell actually made him actually the engine character. Norman's not the engine character in Psycho, but this story is mostly from Mark Lewis, the main character's point of view, and literally from his point of view. Also ahead of its time, all these POV shots. He carries his camera with him everywhere. He films everything, so he's like the ultimate voyeur. And there's all kinds of comments on the just how uptight British people were from the appearances of the prostitutes because he loves to photograph them, and he's not having sex with them. He's just fascinated by their lifestyle because obviously it's not what he came out of. Also, he finds this old man who was played by a famous aging character actor, but I don't remember his name. Wasn't familiar with him, but a British guy, and he's asking for some publications under the counter. So that was essentially what British people had as pornography. It still wasn't hardcore, but it was definitely softcore. So no, we don't see any of it in the movie, but it's kind of a funny scene because once the clerk knows what he's talking about, the old guy suddenly loses inhibitions. It's like his buddy, and I'm like, well, that would be nice if everybody were just like normally, but all these taboos going on. So the thing about Mark is he lives in this kind of brownstone, whatever you would call a flat in Britain. And, sorry about my British speak here, my Brit speak. I haven't watched. I'm a
Block
long.
of flats. Block of flats.
Well, I was gonna say show Spaced by with
And
Simon Pegg. Yeah.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yes, yes. So Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I mean, that's where I learned a lot of my modern British slang. So, he's a quiet guy. He's very shy. He's very considerate. Nobody knows that he goes out and photographs prostitutes. He does commercial work with mainstream models. There's a woman who lives in his flat named I forgot her name, but her character's actress is named Anna Massey. Anna Massey I'm not super familiar with her, but I do think she was quite good in one of the Amicus anthologies, Midnight Mess from the EC Comics story, which is a great story. And she's kind of the romantic interest, if you want to put it that way. She just kind of knows him as Mark. She sees him as a nice person. he's not an angry or cruel, violent person. He just unfortunately gets these urges, which, basically he'll corner one of these models, and his little camera thing has a spike that comes out, and he like gradually gets to their throat and impales them on it. Um, None of that's graphic. The most graphic impaling, and even it doesn't have any blood, is he himself dying at the end. It's kind of a little contrived to me. I think would be to modern viewers, because it'd be like, why didn't these chicks just get up and run away, or why did they knock his camera down? Why would they be riveted in fear? Because that's the whole point. Is he's feeding on their fear, and he learned to do that from his father. I have no answer. I just
He
consider,
has that fisheye mirror
yeah, they see
reflector.
themselves, but the thing is, they see themselves before they get cut. I could understand if they started to get cut and then they freaked out, but he's like this far from them, and they're like, "Oh my god, Spike's gonna kill me." So it's got to be like a mind over matter kind of thing, and he's not an intimidating person, so it's like the thought. I think it's just a symbol, like voyeurism itself. The voyeurism has gone mad. First he's doing being a voyeur, peeping in on these forbidden ladies and their lifestyles, and eventually he's taking their lives while filming it and watching it. Which of course now we get into snuff area. So this movie was way ahead of other horror movies of its time. I felt bad for Mark. Mark is not a guy you actually, like I said, you don't really see the aftermath of any of his murders. You don't see any blood. So it challenges you just on a moral ground. Are you with Mark? Or are you not with Mark? Are you sympathetic? The most unsympathetic I think we get with him is he's filming privately one of the stars that he was working on for studio, and she's played by Maura Shearer, who was in the Red Shoes, and they're good friends, and that makes it all the more awkward because like she's really having fun and she's nice to Mark. She doesn't treat him like as a weirdo like a lot of people do, and she's a glamorous woman, but she's like really dressed down. She's not like the Red Shoes. He finally forces her into this trunk and does his thing on her, and it's a kind of a prolonged scene before that happens. So I think the first time you see it, well, first time I saw it, I thought he would end up chickening out. Or I thought they'd just go all the way and like say, well, here's a likable starlet. We're just going to show her to die. It's going to be. But again, it went against my expectations, having seen this in 1993 for the first time. So I can't even imagine being in 1960 in Britain watching this. I guess your mind would shatter. So he elaborates on the theme this way. His father was also a voyeur. So his father filmed everything. And his father was obsessed with human fear, like the mechanics of it, the science of it. I guess what chemicals the brain secretes or excretes when it's feeling fear. And so he wanted to provoke fear in other beings and witness that fear impulse kicking in, and like how their eyes dilate and how their breath changes, just documenting it. So he did that with Mark, and all through his childhood. So early, Mark shows Anna Massey, the girl he's talking to, what a date movie. Show her your father's experiments on you about fear. Hey, come here, baby. I want to show you this. She didn't turn him down, but it didn't go well either. Um, so, but then the other plot device, which again is another one you have to stretch, but again is so hyper symbolic you have to accept it, is that her mother's blind. So her mother takes an interest in Mark. She like listens to everything. She's got that daredevil thing. All her senses are enhanced, and so she eventually has a little audience with Mark to try to feel him out. Because since her daughter obviously is starting to like him better than the luggish bloke across the street who's over there, kicking a Rigby ball and shit and going, "Hang on, mate." He's not into that guy. She's not into that guy anymore. She's fascinated by this loner, and so the mother talks to Mark, and he shows her the movies, and he actually shows her some of the ones that he's done. Now, of course, she can't see them. We, the audience, just see a reflection and a flicker. So, why is he doing this? If you guys have a theory, let me know. To this day, I feel like it's only him showing Powell showing the audience the irony of a blind person watching these, being immersed in this scopophiliac experience, and yet they can't experience it, but they still feel fear. Like their mind is imagining they're not seeing. Is that how you guys read it? I read it as she's imagining that it's even worse than it is, which is,
Right.
probably they chose the spike going in a woman's throat. We don't see it, but she would see it. But she's blind. Even at that, she doesn't. hasn't any evidence against Mark, but she does tell him, she'd rather him not date her daughter. He wavers for a few seconds. He thinks about killing her, it seems, but he doesn't. And eventually the cops start to track these dead women who've been killed. And, again, nowadays with forensics and him being a public photographer, I mean, well, I was going to say it would be obvious because he'd be right there. He'd be a public person. But then again, look at Dexter. So you've got the guy hiding in plain sight. So he's photographing all kinds of stuff in the streets where these murders are taking place, but nobody suspects him. He's just there. He's just a photographer, So nobody's ever going to suspect him, and I'm pretty sure no one does. I think the cops do get tipped, and I forgot how, to be honest, because they start to notice. He starts to notice they're watching him, like on the street. They're being very conspicuous. He has a final, I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to call it a confrontation. A final evening with Anna Massey, and she starts to see more of his movies. I don't think she still put all of it together, and finally he figures out he's going to need to, I think he's going to go ahead and kill her. By this time, he's like taking these pictures for her of these kids, and he's done all this kind of family friendly stuff to win her over. But his impulse is winning out. So rather than kill her, he turns the thing on himself, and he actually sees himself, his eyes. Now he's afraid, and he goes, "Now I'm afraid, and I'm glad I'm afraid." And then he stabs himself. And I love the way he says that line. I mean, because he actually is happy when he dies. It's like he knows this is like his karma or whatever. So that's my read on the movie. Everybody feel free to chime in. Like, any thoughts when you saw it? How you feel about it?
Well, I first saw it in the 1980s when it was rediscovered because I think Martin Scorsese actually had that remastered. And I saw it in a theater with an audience.
Hold AC. We are going to usher into our presence live our other co-host, CF Roberts.
All right.
Yo,
Hey.
live from Arkansas. Chuck, we are discussing Peeping Tom.
Woo!
So AC is beginning to give his experiences on it. So sit tight.
So I
have not seen that, but I've heard it's a good one.
Oh, wow.
Classic.
It is an absolute classic. And maybe I should say, Henry, I will never fight you on your opinion on that. While I don't think it's better than Psycho, I think it's equal to.
Fair enough. Sure.
I think it's an excellent film. And I saw it in the 80s after having read about it when I was a young kid in one of the early books on horror films. It was called Focus on the Horror Film. It was a series. It was Focus on the Science Fiction Film, Focus on the Western. And it just had essays in it. And they had an essay on two movies that were extremely controversial. And they talked about how crowds were just upset. One was Sans Visage, Eyes Without a Face, and the other was Peeping Tom. So I looked for this movie for years. It was unavailable. And then it got a theatrical release. And I remember sitting in a theater, and to this day, for anybody who hasn't seen this movie, the scenes of the 8mm home movies with Mark and his dad when he was a little boy, and the dad is filming him in his fear exercise. He's using his own kid.
It's his own kid.
And he's throwing snakes and lizards in the bed with him. I, to this day, think that's one of the most disturbing scenes in a movie.
Yeah. I think it's his son. Isn't his son Columba Powell? Because they interview him on that very British Psycho, and he says, he laughs and he says it was me, and he says it's not disturbing at all. He might be lying. Or he's a good little actor.
And Henry, when you're talking about that this movie is about voyeurism, which it definitely is, think about its voyeuristic as a movie, and then there's yet the meta element of being voyeuristic, because the crazy psychiatrist dad is played by Michael Powell himself.
Right.
So you have a horror film director, somebody who would be a voyeur and be interested in fear, making a movie with himself in that part as that director about a voyeur interested in fear.
And nowadays it wouldn't play because of child endangerment.
Yeah, I find it to be an astonishingly good movie. It's,
but
it's
yeah,
as you said, way ahead of its time on lots of symbolic elements, the psychological horror of it, the fact that the hero is kind of a normal person with this horrendous compulsion. And I found him completely sympathetic the whole way through because
yeah,
I thought he's had the worst childhood anybody could imagine. And it's kind of like this is how serial killers are made. And he's a serial killer.
yeah,
It's an early serial killer movie, slasher movie, because and he's made by his dad because
yes.
dad had crazy ideas justified in the name of medicine and science, and the poor kids suffered.
That's some deep Freudian shit. I mean, I really thought it was well portrayed.
Oh, I agree, it's brilliant.
And I feel like the whole thing, yeah, being a scientific experiment is fascinating. And the other thing, yeah, there weren't that many. Well, I don't know if there were any serial killers movies where the serial killer was sympathetic. Um, Norman is the closest, but Norman really turns out to be madder than a hatter. I don't to this day. If you guys want to weigh in, that's okay. Psycho is another movie we could dissect for 20 years, but this is kind of the point is flipping it to this other film from the same time. But in Psycho, I don't know if Norman's ever actually being nice genuinely or not because there's so many layers to his madness. I
Right.
think he's raving lunatic, but he's able to keep his cool and he's handsome, he's quiet, but you know, he's kind of I always saw it as he's just kind of like, yeah, he thinks this one's attractive. He's going to check it out with his mom over here, see what she wants to do. Of course, in the incredible remake by the brilliant Gus Van Sant, you know, they make it more clear that yes, he masturbates to her, undressing. So we have no question of his motives in that one. So I appreciate Gus clarifying the script for all of us idiots who like all these years
Yeah.
and thought it
And
was subtle.
I'd like to make one more point before I
No, go
give
ahead.
some great opinions for everybody else. It's fascinating when you look at Psycho and Powell. Psycho with Hitchcock and Powell with Peeping Tom. You have two visionary, world class
Mhm.
directors, and they're making two horror films, and they're about psychological killers and disturbed guys. Hitchcock's is in black and white, made cheaply with his television crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And it's groundbreaking
Oh yeah.
with what you do not see. Powell has made a movie in garish, bright, impressive color. And it's about the same kinds of things, and it's extravagant and opulent and almost operatic. So they're completely divergent in an aesthetic, but at the heart, they're kind of the same film. You
I'll
know?
have to do a double feature. I've never actually done that. Now I have them both on
No, that
Blu-ray.
would be really
It took
fascinating.
years for Peeping Tom to come out on Blu-ray.
It sure
I was
did.
like, "What is taking you guys so long?" And
Mm.
the DVD Criterion did was out of print in like 5 minutes, so where I was able to sell it.
Mm.
So I was able to sell it for $50. But when the Blu-ray came out, because it was like rare, and there are no new features on the Blu-ray. They're all ported over from the DVD, which this is not a bad thing, guys. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just having Peeping Tom and seeing it like this ultimate presentation, and I know there are people probably watching who are like 4K UHD is way better than Blu-ray. You don't know what you're talking about. Um, you feel free to tell me off in the comments. And also for the people who are angry that I said that about Psycho, I love Psycho. I grew up with Psycho. Psycho was the first
Mm.
defining horror movie of my life. I'm not talking about monsters. I'm like, I liked, the Frankenstein and Dracula. I read the novel Dracula when I was 8 years old. I mean, that was my background. But then I kind of got disinterested in horror and more into science fiction for a while. But my dad and my mom showed me Psycho. It came on and it was uncut. We didn't know that then, but um, my dad saw it in the theater in 1960, and he swore you could see Janet Leigh's nipples. He's like,
Hmm.
I don't know why they edited it like this. She had a good, I mean,
Hmm.
um, but both
I
my
don't know why they aired it like this. Like, give me another look.
get more. My mom worked in a movie theater at the time, so she saw it there in a little town called Burlington, North Carolina. She had seen one from another one from the same year that people often mention. I like your mention, AC, of Eyes Without a Face. Um, but one that was, I guess, more well known in its day is the Horrors of the Black Museum. So
Hmm.
she would tell me
There's an
about.
actress, Shirley Ann Field, was in that movie and Peeping Tom.
Oh, okay. I have only seen a little of Horrors of the Black Museum, but my mom was like, didn't the spikes come through the monocular? She said like
Yeah.
traumatized her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with that, they never played that on TV around here when I was a kid. I don't know why, but I love Psycho, and I've seen it numerous times. When I finally got it on Blu-ray, I was kind of like, nah, I'm not gonna watch it again, or just want to put it up. And well, I labored over a few weeks, and I did watch it, and it was very crisp. It looked good, and um, I think it retains its impact. It pushed me to another level of horror where I was dreading it and messed up by it, but I was liking it. So the one after that was The Exorcist. The Exorcist knocked me up a few more pegs. And then I saw Night of the Living Dead. And then I was like, okay, well,
You got 4 world-class filmmakers.
yeah,
So.
I'm losing multiple virginities here to these movies. And Robert, what are your thoughts on Peeping Tom?
It's a masterpiece, and it was way ahead of its time. I really like it. I'm a serial killer fanatic, and so seeing those films and both of them, it was like on at the 4 o'clock movie is where I saw Peeping Tom the first time,
Oh, wow.
and it was pretty, amazing at the time to see something like that, and just marvel at the many layers that are involved in it, and the direction alone is stands by itself. And but I agree with what AC was saying about where you can compare it with Psycho, and they both come from the same place. They're both about voyeur and the art of looking and
Right.
seeing. And I think it was a great film. And for people who haven't seen it, definitely rush out and get it because it's worth it. It's really ahead of its time.
I don't know if it is streaming on Tubi free, by the way. It's been on Tubi since the print got remastered. So, but right before the Blu-ray actually comes out of these things,
Ooh.
Tubi will post the movie.
Wow.
It's really cool. They get
What's
almost
the
all
what's
the
the
new
year?
players. Good.
What's the year of the film? 1960s, is it?
1960.
1960 exactly. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
it's a movie
Wow.
that
So
it's not as I heard different opinions of it before I saw it, and I didn't really know what to think. On the one hand, I thought it was going to be much, much more lurid and graphic. On the other hand, then I heard people, and I thought, the other side, the gorehound side, and I thought it's going to be really, really like tame compared to Psycho. So neither of those things are true. It's all in the storytelling, and
Mhm.
what you choose to see and not to see, and what you
Right.
make someone believe they've seen that they have not seen. Which, of course, the greatest point in case, in my opinion, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You read
Right.
my
I
mind.
swear to God, that movie is
Oh,
soaked
yeah.
with blood and
Yep.
gore. There's
Yep.
one spurt
Yeah.
of blood
yeah.
and no gore, and
Right.
that's it.
Or
Right?
the people who swear they saw Rosemary's Baby, but they edited it out.
Right. Now, my dad
Right.
probably
Hmm.
would have been one of those.
Yeah.
That's proof of excellent filmmaking.
I,
If you
I
can
th-
convince
Right.
somebody that they've seen something that they haven't.
well, people of my parents' generations, though they were of two different generations from each other, but both of their generations, they wanted to see more. But
Sure.
mainstream film wasn't there yet. So, I mean, I kept trying to get my dad to watch The Wild Bunch when I got it on DVD, and I just got a DVD player. Our producer Dwayne actually gave me my first DVD player. He had been watching some tapes with me and some movies and some westerns, but I was like, I think you need to see this one, man. And my he got a videotape copy, but I don't know if he ever watched it. You know,
Hmm.
he like got into Peckinpah, early Peckinpah, like Ride the High Country, and he started gravitating. But I know he would have liked The Wild Bunch.
Oh.
But I have a feeling though, if he saw it on like network TV, if he'd seen it in the theater first, network TV, he's like, they cut a lot of the blood out of that, man. It's like it's never been shown uncut on network TV ever. I mean, it can't be shown, and that's the beauty of it. It's taking movies to a level where truly they are for adults. They're not for kids to wander into the room and go, "Oh, look, there's blood everywhere. 20,000 Mexicans are getting shot. What the fuck?" Um, so Bill, I'm assuming you're familiar with this movie.
Oh yeah, but it's been so long since I've seen it. I really need to revisit it. What I just find fascinating is how this and Psycho came out, and I mean Hitchcock was already huge, but Psycho elevated him even beyond that. It's the thing he's probably going to be most remembered for, rightly or wrongly. And then Peeping Tom ended Powell's career.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
are
mean,
two
just
ends of the commercial spectrum.
yeah,
Mhm.
Totally.
Right.
it's amazing, really.
The Psycho, I will say the Psycho Blu-ray extras, most of which are ported over from the Universal DVD, but there are some newer ones, and it's fascinating watching how they got together the promotional things
Mhm.
like the billboards and the posters and the ads for Psycho. I mean, it really was, despite its subject matter, it really was his most commercial movie by far when it came out. I mean, it
Mhm.
was, I think for its time, it was a blockbuster,
Yeah.
and it's like it was a spectacle. Which so was The Exorcist when it came out. It was like a spectacle for everyone to see.
What did the Brits think of Psycho? Was it? I'm sure it was a big hit over there as it was
Yeah, but
here.
they probably edited a few shots. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think when you're watching Psycho, when I'm watching Hitchcock, I like Hitchcock. I like Hitchcock a lot, but he's one of those directors that I'm aware I'm watching film directed by the master filmmaker.
Correct.
Some filmmaker, but Peeping Tom, I don't think it calls attention to its craft as much as Psycho does. So you're more maybe immersed in the story, and maybe you know
Yeah.
you're more immersed with this character, this really messed up person, and that just there's no relief there. There's no humor. There's no I don't know. It
You
it
can't
just
get a
it seems
distance from
bleak.
it. It's confronting us with our own, erotic longing for gazing
Mm.
at things, where even they're forbidden, sexual, violent, whatever. And that's something Tim Lucas, who we talked about earlier before we started recording, we should mention him here because he's a huge proponent of that theory in his work. And of course, he wrote a novel, Throat Sprockets, kind of about that, and it was also a graphic novel. Um, and of course, he talked a lot about that in association with Mario Bava. Kim Newman is another guy, him and the other guy who I could never figure out who was who in the list of writers, but Kim Newman and another cat in the Overlook Encyclopedia of Horror. They talked a lot
Hmm.
about
Oh, Phil
Bava
Hardy.
and
Phil Hardy
voyeurism.
did the
Phil
over.
Hardy was the
Yeah.
Bill Hardy,
editor.
yes,
He was the
Right.
editor, but I don't know how much he actually wrote. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been debated. I do know that Phil Newman wrote about a lot of stuff. Now, I
Yeah.
think Phil Newman is a massively important guy in the space. But what's funny is, and I didn't know this at the time. I was so ignorant. I thought these people were all like archaeologists, But it turns out that half of the movies in the book they never seen before. They didn't have a way to see them. There's guessing, things they read in some ancient, newspaper in another country. So a lot of the stuff Kim Newman did analyze, he was way off base about. And after you watch them for yourself, you're like, either he and I are on another planet mentally, which I don't think we are, but I think it's just a matter of not having all the information in front of it. So the irony is, you got a big book of people telling you how scary horror is voyeurism and the look, and they haven't actually seen half the movies in the book. So I keep coming back to that book. I mean, I love it. It's an indispensable reference. I think it's out of
Yeah.
print again.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
It came out as the All Room Guide, and then it came out as the
Yes.
Overlook Guide.
Yeah.
What happened to it after that? I forgot. I think somebody put it out one last time, but I think it might be out of print. That's one for you guys to look for on Amazon or use bookstores, because they had like all of Coffin Joe's movies in there, all of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, and all the movies are presented in their actual language. So
Mhm.
you find out what they are underneath, but it's like their language, the year, their country, and really influenced my film writing. They were way ahead. They were way and when that Overlook version came out, it was the 92, 93. That was right when something weird was starting to look for a lot of stuff like Coffin Joe, and some of these
Mhm.
and Video Search was starting to look for Lone Wolf and Cub, and
Yeah.
and so you could kind of start seeing them and comparing them. But anyway, plaudits there. Justin, you said you have not seen this film, and Chuck, have you made a comment, but I forgot.
Sounds
No.
interesting, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What scuttlebutt
I
have
might
you
check
heard?
it out.
Good. What scuttlebutt have you heard about, Chuck? Because I know you must have.
I've heard it's great, heard it's a masterpiece. I have not seen it, but I am familiar with the hype, and I am familiar with the existence of the film.
Well, this Christmas you should get your wife the Criterion, and get Peeping Tom.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of pumped to realize it's on Tubi.
Yes, it is on Tubi, and it looks good. I mean, and everything Bill said about it is that's true. The style doesn't draw attention to itself, but on a visual level, it's a more of like a comfort film to me than Psycho. I mean, in other words, that world that you're enveloped in and that look of that world, you see the movie and you're not. I wasn't advanced enough in my brain to go, well, this is a very subtle film and a subversive film, and there's like beautiful things you can see in the scenery, the photography. I just didn't, as much as was loving movies in the '90s, I didn't think of them quite to that level. But it was people like Tim Lucas who helped me see that stuff, and I feel like I could watch Peeping Tom would be one of my comfort movies if we weren't covering it now, maybe just for Bill. Bill has covered that a few times. Me and my nurse watched it twice last week. I do not know what she thought about it. Couldn't tell, but but that was okay.
Holds her cards close to her chest, does she?
Well, I think it's the time it came out in the country. I think, it did seem staid to her, uh, you know, and I totally
Yeah.
get that. I mean, working class Americans, millennials and Gen Z, you know, they're hypnotized by much faster and more intense and darker visual stimuli than that.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of go back and get things in context. So
Yeah.
I would.
Okay, so what you're telling me is Peeping Tom is a quote unquote slow burn.
Yeah, but not too slow. I mean, the scenes are done with purpose. I mean, there's dialogue that moves the action. I mean, I don't. There's not a lot of like the slow burn nowadays where you're not sure if that's even when we use it, not sure if it's an insult or a compliment. It totally is subjective to what we're talking
Yeah.
about. But in the
No,
negative
just I'm
sense,
used
no.
to I'm used to the millennials kind of writing some movies off as quote unquote slow burns.
I've showed Ganja and Hess to some millennial age people, and they come around to it, but they do think it's a slow drag for a while. And even,
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, even a lot of the Gen X writers of zines, like Stephen Bukowski, thought he's like, it's a great movie. It's a bore. It's like, I'm like, wow, okay, everybody. I kept hearing it had the languorous pace, and then when I watch it, I'm like, you're right, but visually, there's always something happening. I mean, it's like pure cinema film, Ganja and Hess. I mean, there's no coincidence. It's like in the art museums now. I covered that 2 Halloweens ago under Vampire. So, but another one we recommend. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Peeping
yeah.
Tom.
Chuck was here and we covered that. What do you guys have any final thoughts? If not, I'll wrap this one up. Okay, that doesn't sound like much, but we'll go with it. All right. So before we go, Justin, let the audience know what they should do.
Okay, well, thanks again for watching. We really value the audience. So please don't forget to like the videos, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you get our updates and notifications. And we hope you join us for every session that we put online on YouTube and get the best out of what we have to say and go and search out and watch or rewatch the films. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be back with more human monsters very soon.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.